It's Eddie from Tactical Edge Trading. Just wanted to do a little bit of a analysis on the market after today's bloodbath. Uh, Markets, all markets, including traditional U.S. markets, gold, crypto, they all tumbled down pretty hard today. The only thing really up on the day is probably the dollar index, which is where I'm going to actually start. So, if you don't aren't too familiar with the DXY, DXY is the dollar index. It shows when money's flowing back into the dollar. We can see from this little trend that we've been on for 14, 15 years that the dollar bounces pretty consistently when it hits this trend. We have started a little bit of an uptrend on the daily. Broke trend here on the dollar. We had a shift of structure right there. You can maybe even argue right here, a daily shift of structure. And now we're starting to mark up. And what happens is people move back into the dollar. They pull money out. This usually happens when people are pulling money out of risk on assets. So this is something you definitely want to keep on your radar going into the next couple weeks to see how this reacts. Could kind of give us clues where money's moving. Let's talk about the S&P real quick. So we've been talking about this channel for quite a bit of time, right? This rising channel. And the last time I think we spoke, we were sitting right up here at resistance, and it was basically make or break. You're either going to roll over or you're going to break out. Well, it looks like we rolled over here, and we're making our way down. There are a few areas of interest between us, well, price action as it stands right now, and the lower end of this channel. I'm really watching this little box right here, just this general area. It doesn't, it's not, it has to be perfect. It actually lines up with about a 786 Fibonacci. And we just have this zone right here where price kind of got chopped up before. So I think there's going to be some type of reaction going into this low here. And then worst case scenario, it's going to come back down to this channel where we should find a little bit of support, some type of bounce. And then I think price is going to make its decision on the S&P. Right now, it's a no trade zone for me. I'm going to wait until price gets into this area and I'm going to look for reactions. I'm looking for bullish divergence on my 4 hour, looking for structure shifts on my 4 hour before I can even flip long again. For now, we just have to kind of go with what price action's showing us and the trend's down. Fight the trend. What's going on, Brian? Yeah, Asia beat down after U.S. market closed. How you doing, Grizz? So if anybody's new or anybody's watching this channel for the first time, we're Tactical Edge Trading. We are a trading group. We do real live trading Monday through Friday. We do the New York sesh. I do Asia sessions live now. We have a Discord. Check us out. There should be an affiliate link above. Check out our Discord. If you want to join for free, go ahead. Send a message in the chat to support when you're in the Discord, and we can actually get you 30 days for free to try out our premium section where we do our live trading. We teach crypto, we teach trading, we teach risk management in general, psychology. We have a few successful traders: Ben, Brian, Donkey, myself, who've been doing this for a few years, have some time in the market, and all different trading styles. So check us out. Our affiliate links are below as well if you want to check those out. Anyway, getting back to the market. So S&P, I'm kind of watching this low right here. I think there's going to be a reaction around this 6,700 down to maybe 60, 66.5. I expect some type of bounce there or some type of reaction. Does it take us back to the highs? I don't know. We won't know until it gets there. I think it's a good area to kind of watch. And if it starts to slip below but doesn't close, look, we can wick down here, even wick below this channel. We don't want to close below it. Any closes below this in like the most bearish scenarios, it's probably going to be a bigger correction for the S&P, and that's likely going to result in everything going down. Going over to the NASDAQ, look, we had that breakout, similar channel, right? We had this breakout up here. Last time we talked about this, I said if as long as it holds above this channel, it should be okay. But if it starts to break back in, you have to expect that it's coming down. And this was my first area of where I expected some type of reaction, because you could see we've hit our heads here once, twice, and finally broke through. So now we're finally getting a proper back test. So if this thing is going to stay bullish, likely it's going to It's gonna continue from here. If it starts to lose this low, you open up possibilities for this zone down here, essentially. You're opening it up for this area down here, which essentially is the bottom of this channel. So you lose this level, you're kind of making your way down to the bottom of the channel. So I want to see how tomorrow's markets react. Today was a pretty bloody day across all markets. We will see how Wednesday is. I think tomorrow's going to be a pivotal day, whether we're going to continue down for the rest of the week or whether we're going to have some type of relief. And by relief, I don't mean necessarily like it's just could be a bounce. We don't know. Just a little bit of sell pressure, diminishing. So take a look at gold real quick, and then I'm going to go into some individual stocks. What's up, Ryan? What's up, Rich? Rob, what's going on? Excuse me if I don't like check the chat every 2 seconds. I'll keep my best to make sure I'm watching what's going on there. If you guys have any requests, we'll get to those. Just throw them in the chat, and I'll definitely check them out at some point. Charts, as long as it's not some coin that has just launched on Pumped Off Fun or something. I mean, I'll definitely be able to TA it for you, or to at least take a look at it, give you my opinion. So look, gold's been in this uptrend for quite a bit of time. We just broke this uptrend. We are starting to form, which looks more to me like a bear pennant, bear flag. Could have been. You could have made the argument it was ascending triangle. We didn't know which way it was going to break, but once we get the break, we can kind of figure out which way it's going. So at the moment, gold seems to favor the downside. What I'm thinking here is, look, we had a little bit of a trend break here. We haven't really lost 4-hour structure. Well, you could say we lost it here. Let me see if we lost daily structure. We haven't really lost daily structure yet. So there's still a chance that gold makes a bounce here. Maybe this is just like a daily double bottom. We need to really watch what happens in the next few days. If gold comes back up, and these are two plays I'm actually watching myself. And just to kind of go over this, none of this is financial advice, guys. This is just me talking about charts where I think things are going to go. What you do with that information is on you. So just keep that in mind. So look, gold's either going to do one of two things. It's maybe going to pop back up here, get rejected, in which case it'll put in a lower high, and then probably continue to mark down, probably starting with this low here and attacking this low, and then maybe a little bit lower. If I had to pick to the downside where this thing could probably go, it's really tough because we've been up only, and a lot of times these things get clawed back. A lot of this will get clawed back if they do decide to start running this down more aggressively. I mean, you could start with maybe a fib here if you really want to just get a little more conservative. But I mean, we're kind of sitting right now. I'll pull actually from right here is where you want to pull it from. Right now, we're sitting right above the 382. It's not a lot of support in my opinion. Let me check and see if there's any anchored VWAPs we have. I mean, we have this anchored VWAP. So we have a 382 support, and we have some anchored VWAP below us. We start losing this, you have to imagine that 36, maybe down to 35, where this previous breakout was at, just high up here, becomes a real target for us. So this is something we have to keep in mind with gold. There could be a bigger move to the downside. I wouldn't get too bearish here just yet. We do have a little bit of support under us, and I believe volume, a little bit of volume. But once we lose this level, volume really does fall off, and you see it doesn't really pick back up until this 3600 level. So I think we start losing 3900 on gold. You have to open up. There's going to be a pretty decent gap down. Could be a decent swing trade if you've, again, not financial advice, but this is something I'm going to be watching into the coming days. More locally, I mean, look, that's the bearish scenario, and then the bullish scenario is, look, maybe this just needs to come down here. It's ranging out a little bit, and it's going to make its climb back up and retest some of these highs. There's both possibilities, but I think really the levels that need to be watched. I'm just going to get rid of some of these illustrations real quick. Really the levels that need to be watched, right? At the end of the day, break back above 4,000, 4,500, and then you probably have a little bit of a move back up to 4,200, maybe a little bit higher. Probably around this, like, probably right around here is going to be your next resistance. Why? You can see volume kind of picks back up here. You can see we banged our heads here. So that would just be the next logical area if we can break this high. But in order to do that, we would need to break back into trend, reclaim, and then attack this high. Sometimes they do deviate out, and you do get these little fake outs, right? And then they run back up, and then the move happens. I've seen it happen with these patterns. They're not always perfect. You do get manipulation on both ends, depending on what side of the trade you're on. So keep an eye out for that on gold. But to the downside seems a little bit more favorable at this point. I mean, the trend is down, the pattern broke to the downside. So I'm looking more for back tests than anything. And then I guess a really good target this to aim if you're a scalper, you're a short-term trader, you're looking for this low at 3,900. If you're more of a swing trader and you think we're in a downtrend, I mean, you're really looking for that 36. Break down below 39 and you got 3,600. It's probably your next target, or most likely next target. So it's kind of what I'm seeing on gold. I do have an interesting little thing I'm looking at on silver, and silver might be the telltale. Those small cap reviews. Yeah, dude. I mean, I always start with the big stuff. I'll kind of get into some of the small caps. I like to start with what I think is like, I don't know, like just bigger macro things that kind of like we look to BTC, we look to gold, we look to the stock market, like the indices like the Nasdaq and the S&P, to kind of guide us where the small caps and mid caps are going. So if you don't know which direction the big boys are going, you really can't do anything with the small caps. You're just kind of like, you know, they can be influenced by these larger, assets. So I'm going to get into silver real quick. First thing that comes up with silver, look, we've been at this resistance for quite a bit of time. It's kind of consolidating up here. This is a 14-year-old resistance, right? This is when gold peaked back in 2011. And if you guys don't know this about commodities, commodities run on a different cycle. I think they're on an 8 to 10-year cycle versus your normal business cycle, which is about 4. They don't move like crypto. When they start to run, they run. And when they go into a bear market depression, they're going for quite a bit of time. You can see this with silver. I mean, silver was in a bear market for about 9 years, 10 years almost before it started to break back out. So, do I think this high gets broken? I think at some point, yes, this high does get taken. I think right now, I think there's a little bit more of a pullback coming. What the biggest clue for me is that there's a bigger pullback coming. I mean, head and shoulders. I mean, look, we deviated above. We tried to hold. We failed it, and now we're trying to back test and break through, and we're unable to do it. So look, this starts to break down. I mean, you got volume, low volume right below us right here, right? Takes us back down to about 41.7. It's about a 10-11% drop. I don't know about you guys, but that's a pretty big drop if that does play out. You take measured move of the neckline, the head of the head and shoulders, and just down to the neckline, like right about here. Kind of still takes you down generally in that area, probably a little bit further, just as just an estimate, just a rough measurement. So there's probability this thing could come back down. I'm going to go look at my indicators a little bit just to kind of see if there's anything telling me. Look, the weekly is pointed downwards. Let me get rid of market cipher. I just want to look and see if there's any bearish divergence. So our weekly is kind of like pointed down. I mean, our daily's kind of just sitting there, like it's oscillating, it's chopping around. Like this is a no trade zone really, unless you're like a low time frame scalper. And our daily is still pointed down in the bearish control, and it hasn't pointed back up. And while it's pointed down like that, that makes me a little bit hesitant that the move is not done just yet. So I'm watching silver. I think there might be a play on it. I would think, I mean, that's a 10% move down. I don't think you just enter blindly here. You have to find a way to get in. A lot of times, the way I like to play these things, I like to go down to my 4 hour, like to see if I can identify a neckline or some area of support, right? I'll just draw a box or something. Doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing, none of it. It's just something that kind of tells me and indicates, hey, this probably the area you'll want to hold above. So right now, I'm kind of seeing this right here, right? You can probably draw this however you like. Look, we start to lose this box. We start to lose this neckline. You have to imagine. Oh, wrong tool, guys. Wow. Sorry, I get a little ahead of myself. Look, if we start to lose this, I'm looking for back tests that fail to break back into the previous range to flip this. What is support now will become resistance, and I'm looking for a continuation down. That's something I would look for if we started to break down. So that could be a potential move to look forward to in the future. Look, how does this get invalidated? Well, it's simple. This starts to break back up. Starts to break back up, breaks this right shoulder, starts to contend maybe with this little resistance here, makes its way up, and then hey, we're out of here, right? Maybe it wants a run from here. My gut says it's not done pulling back. I think it needs a little bit more fuel before it's going to attack this high again. That's just what I'm thinking. Could be wrong, but I have my invalidation. Look, starts breaking up, starts to break this high, going back for the high. The short play is it's invalidated for now. Maybe there's a short play up here. Maybe there's a short play up here. We won't know until price action develops. Look, on the flip side, bullish case, look, this could be inverse head and shoulders playing out right here. I mean, all possibilities are there, right? We don't know until we know. I mean, unfortunately, we can only speculate. So this is something I'm watching for. And this is exactly why I wouldn't go shorting right now, because what if this is an inverse head and shoulders? You get trapped down here trying to short support instead of waiting for support to become resistance and then short and then. That's the way you trade. That's the way I trade at least, and it works out for me pretty well. So interesting play I'm watching for on silver. If you want to get even a little bit more technical, look, you got a little bit of a trend kind of forming right here. It's not the greatest trend, but it's enough that if you started to breach this, right, you're in an area where you could bounce. You're at support, possibly forming a right shoulder. This thing starts to break up, look for the retest, and then bam, you're probably coming up here to attack these highs right here, these highs. That'll be your first target. Um, this is one I'm going to be watching closely in the next few days because I think this one could be a nice swing play both to the upside or downside. We're in a spot where it needs to make a decision pretty soon. I'm cool with range trading, but I also enjoy trading the trend. So if it starts to break down, I'll be looking for those momentum plays down in those back tests. So any questions on that before I go on? Ando pretty much all also follow. Yeah, Ando. Yeah, there is that big. That is tomorrow, isn't it? It's that tariff decision, man. I think I think the market's a little spooked on that. Just so happens we're dumping the day before that. Like I guess what is it, 600 billion that we'd have to pay back if the courts overturn that, like find it against Trump that he was in violation. I mean that's a lot. It's a lot of money that's just gonna have to get sucked out of our whatever like we have in the markets and the economy now. It's not gonna be great. I can't imagine that being a good thing. I think the market understands that. So another one I want to talk about is Palantir. Look, it's after markets. I was talking about this play the other day. We were going into earnings right here, and I said, look, pumps into earnings can typically be a trap. And what they'll oftentimes do is they'll pull back, regardless of whether it's good earnings or bad earnings. I've watched it happen with Nvidia tons of times. And then inverse, you can if you're dumping into earnings, oftentimes you'll get a little bit of a pump afterwards. It's not always, but you can expect it. So if you're in positions and you see price moving aggressively in one direction going to earnings, especially on an asset that's as large as like Palantir, Nvidia, things that people pay attention to, Apple, Meta. And I can show you examples of all this too. They all did the same thing. They all had earnings last week and this week, and they all done something similar. So look, Palantir, it's been in an uptrend. Kind of broke out of this little ascending wedge, ascending triangle, whatever you want to call this thing. Had its breakout. The measured move is still up here around 240 if it decides it's going to run up there. If it can hold, this would just be a back test. And then traders step in and then it would continue to mark this thing up. And maybe get to that target. Who knows? Maybe higher, maybe it doesn't get there. The idea is look, if this is an area, if this should hold as support. And if it doesn't hold as support, the trade's invalidated. It's simple. You start to break back in here, that's your first red flag. You lose this trend, it's over. Like you get out of the trade. If you're in a trade, if you're holding this, maybe you want to evaluate holding it because if you start to lose this trend, you start to look at a bigger drop down. A lot of this can get taken back pretty quickly. It's been up only for quite a bit of time, so you really don't want to see this trend broken. What you want to do is if you're looking for plays on this thing, you want to wait for market open, see how we hold here. If we start to form on the lower time frames, I'd say you need at least, you can try to catch a 15-minute, but I don't think that's even going to work. I think the play here is this. You got a CME gap right here, right? I'll get rid of some of this stuff. So if I was trying to get into this play, and I'm going to watch this tomorrow, I don't know how it's going to play out 100% because I'm not even watching what's happening after markets. But look, you got a gap there. That is a target. Oftentimes these gaps do get filled. So how I would be playing this, I'd be looking for a lower time frame trade, maybe like an hour play, maybe get in on the 15. If it gaps through, completes this gap and starts to take this high, it becomes a swing play. You hold it for a little bit for higher. Worst case scenario, you got two places it's going to reject. It's going to either reject right here where the gap starts. They'll protect it. You can see volume starts to pick up on the right side, right around this area, around 197. Maybe it's a 4% play. And then best case scenario, if you're just looking like for a short-term trade, you got about 8% back up to the top of this gap for the fill. Now, for the shorters out there, if this thing decides it's going to make its way up, let's say, right, we start to kind of climb on up, a little bit of resistance, right? We start to make our way up, and then we fail to break this high, or even worse, we come up, sweep the high, but fail to close under, you got a short there. If it looks for like a double top, you're either looking for an SFP, a sweep of this high, and then a closure back underneath that high, or you're looking for a lower high to form. Maybe some type of trend will form over time as it does this. You'll get some type of trend line. And when that trend breaks, you could start to look for a back test and then look for a larger short back down. Because maybe this thing is going to range around for a little bit, or maybe it's going to come back down here and test this trend. We'll see how that plays out. But there's two plays here. I'd be looking for shorts back at the high if it does get back up there. But I'm looking for a potential long, scalp long to maybe ride back into this gap. So I like this one. I think this is going to be one to watch. We'll have to wait to see what happens tomorrow. I think tomorrow's going to be a pivotal day, whether we get a bounce in the market or not. I think with that court case and everything happening, I think we're going to get some type of. We also have ADP non-farm payrolls tomorrow, which, if you guys are not familiar, with like some of these news events, we haven't had any jobs data, we haven't had any inflation data, any of that kind of stuff since the government shut down. This is a private sector, so it's private, like, data. It's the only jobs data we've had probably in a month. So it's going to be huge. I think a lot of weight's going to be put into this to see how the labor market's doing. So you're probably going to see a reaction in the market based off that. So I'd keep an eye on that. I think it releases at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, an hour before the market opens. It's typically when those release. So check chat. I think metals will pay over the long term. I agree. I think metals are going to pay out. I think metals are going to pay out. I think there's a few things you're probably. I mean, commodities. I mean, like they run a longer cycle. Look back, do some back testing on it. You can see that gold and like silver run on a different wavelength than everything else. So what you're really looking for is bigger pullbacks. Like if gold gets down to 3,600, I'm probably gonna start picking up some gold in that area because I think it's a good buy. I mean, obviously, I don't think you're going to get it under 3,000 again. I just don't think so. I think at some point, yeah, it will probably get to 5K, and I think silver is probably going to get put in a new all-time high pretty soon as well. I think it just needs some time to cool off. I think the government being shut down, you know, uncertainty with the Fed, a lot of things happening, and it's kind of creating a little bit of like uncertainty. So people just don't really know where to put their money. So and then gold's kind of it's rotating. People are taking profits. They've hit a big number, so they're gonna naturally want to take some profits at these levels. So the next thing I want to look at real quick, I'm gonna look at some Bitcoin, and then I will get into some other charts. Maybe we'll look at some other stocks. So look, Bitcoin had a nasty day today. It was pretty brutal. We actually in the group, I'll show you the trade right around here. Where was the VWAP at? I'll show you the trade where we called it too. Brian called this thing beautiful today. Where's that play at? So it was right here. Show you the play. It was fantastic. So right in the morning, right around here. So London had put a low in, right? So this little box we're seeing right here, this was kind of the low that London put in. So this is London consolidation. We opened the market, and then what does New York do? New York immediately comes down, sweeps the low, sweeps London low, comes back up, takes London high, right? I don't think they got any of Asia high, but they did get London high, tapped VWAP, Brian actually called this today, and Brian's one of the leaders at Tactical Edge. He called the sweep and he called the short here before market. He actually drew it out. He's like, I think it's going to come down, take that, and it's going to come up, and we're going to reject, and we're going to roll over. Targeting this 1015, which was this wick from back here, from back on that Black Friday when we had that big capitulation event. So I caught the short. I mean, I caught the long down here, SFP, up to VWAP. Then I caught the short down. I didn't actually take it all the way down as low as that, but I got it down to about 102. I think a couple people caught the trade. I know Ben got it. Donkey was in it. I know that for sure. There was a bunch of us that got this trade. So this is what we did this morning. This move right here, I think there was like 30% on some people. Let me actually show you on the Discord real quick. I can actually do that. Let's take a look at our little Discord here. So this is the brag wall right here. This is where we kind of throw our trades in. Make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. All right. So the last year trade I had, ignore that. I don't know why that's still stuck on that. Brian, I don't ask you what's up with this percentage. I think that was a little bit of a miss error, but look, that's the trade we just talked about, that 105 down to about 100K. So that was the trade. That was Brian who actually gave that trade out. Ting caught a nice little short. That was the play. That was the pre-market play that Brian gave us right here. He actually drew that out right up to VWAP, and then bam. So credit to you, brother. You did that was pretty legit this morning. You gave two, you made me money both directions. There's Ben hitting it. 10x. That's a little light for Ben. He must have been a bigger position, knowing him. Donkey with his long. I caught that long earlier this morning. Brian with another one of his shorts. So yeah, man, we crushed it this morning in the Discord. We do a lot. We do this a lot. It's not just Brian. Some days it's me. Some days it's most days it's Ben. He's kind of the leader of the New York sesh. That's his specialty. Trade Bitcoin with Ben in New York. You'll learn some. You'll learn from one of the best. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. So where are we at now? I mean, look, we swept that low. That was the target. We took that low. Now, if I zoom out, what what's between what do we have between us and what's lower than us? Like what's higher, what's lower? So like look, we have a weekly low that goes back to June low. I think at some point this is going to get tapped. I mean, look, we've made our way down here pretty far. I'm just going to get rid of view up real quick. We made our way down here pretty far, and I don't see a reason why we wouldn't just go for this now. If we start to close back above 101 500 and we start to hold above this as support, then maybe this was the extent of the move. Maybe this is just a higher, like just I guess a higher low on the weekly, if you really want to call it that. And maybe we'll go back up and attack some of the shorts that piled in. There's a lot of shorts stacked up above us. There's a lot of liquidity. I go to the daily. Look, we had a daily close. It's pretty iffy. I don't know. This is too close to call, in my opinion. Like it was right there at the low. So it's like I think the next day is tomorrow is really going to be a pivotal day. If we close a candle back in here, then you got to imagine we're probably going to get a short-term bounce. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to run up, but maybe we just come up, tap this trend up here. You know, maybe we just make our way back up into this area. This simply what we do because we don't go down in a straight line. So if we don't take this low now, maybe we're going to come back up, test some of these levels here, and then we come back down. Like, very valid thing. I think at some point this gets taken. We're just too close not to do it. And it just makes me think that, like, what would scare people more than anything is dipping below this low. I mean, going below 100 today, I'm surprised we didn't see a crazy capitulation. The altcoins got smashed pretty good. Caught a couple good shorts on it and got to go a couple bounces as well. But yeah, I mean, something like this could be in play if we do decide to bounce here. So, what I'm looking for in the immediate, I don't know if I'm ready to long just yet. I wasn't a scalp long earlier, but I got out of it. I want to see a little bit more pushing into resistance right now. This line is now resistance, and we haven't flipped it just yet or convincingly flipped it. And I think this low is really my target. I mean, if we get down here, like on a swing, I will be looking for swing longs down here. I mean, you have to look, if you're not willing to take longs on weekly lows, after a pretty consistent dump like this, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, you shouldn't be looking to short into support. Your time to short was up here, was up here, was up here. I mean, up here if you call it that. I know Brian called it. Um, so you should be looking for bounce plays, or you wait for a bounce and then you look for the short then. So I'll be looking for a sweep down here at some point. Probably need to see some acceptance back above and then maybe take a long. Could be a possibility, a play like that. I mean, if we start to gain acceptance back here on this support here, could be a short-term play back up. Grab some of this single print here. Sure, there's a low volume gap between us and, yeah, I mean, volume's pretty low until we get back up into this area here around 106. Does pick up a little bit around 104, but could be a move back up, fast down is usually how these things work. So that's just higher time frame, kind of what I'm seeing. I'm going to get down to the lower time frame, see if I can snipe us out something. 98's a level you're eyeing. Yeah, 98 just seems like it's becoming more and more inevitable, right? I mean, we thought I had a feeling we were gonna get. I said that a while back. I was like, "There's a chance we can go back down to 98." When they were putting this wick in, I thought they were going for 98, and they never did. So, but yeah, we'll have to see. Like, I'm not making any calls on whether it's a bull market or a bear market yet. I think still to be determined. We need to see some weekly closes, probably underneath 100K for me. I think that's where it starts to solidify. We start to see a couple, like one or two weekly closes under 100K, or we definitively lose 100K where we're breaking down below it and we're starting to struggle to get back above it. I think for me that's over. I think I would call it and say see you next year or see you in a few months or something. Wait for better market conditions. For now, I think there's a lot of variables that still could flip the market. We still, who knows? Government may still open. We may have a solidified deal on this tariff thing. We could get a resolution on tomorrow's court case. And they could all go in our favor. And maybe it still doesn't work out. Maybe we still don't get a bounce. And maybe markets still slump. That's always a possibility. But, I'm not throwing in the towel just yet. But I am, like, not as optimistic. I'm still just waiting to see what happens. But I'm playing it both ways. At the end of the day, I don't care. If I can make money shorting and longing, I can do it both directions. I don't really care which direction it goes. I just like movement like this because as traders, we need this volatility. So we'll go down to the lower time frames and stop talking so much. So look, we're struggling right now to get acceptance back into this level. But what I do like, these wicks right here show me there's buy pressure coming into this 98. So even if we do get down to this 98, it just tells me there's liquidity down here. There's buyers interested in it in this area because they're grabbing it and they're buying it up pretty aggressively. Let's see what the volume looks like. Probably looks like dog crap. No, it's not too bad on the hourly. 4 hours kind of trending up a little bit. So it still hasn't broken any highs, so it hasn't really shown us too much. The hourly doesn't look terrible. It started to kind of make its way back up. If I look at my indicators, I mean, there's not too much going on here. But we have bottomed out. It looks like we've kind of bottomed out on the 4 hour, but doesn't necessarily mean we couldn't just go back down. Like this thing could just roll back over. So we can't just get too, we're not out of the woods yet on a dip, is what I'm getting to. But what I do like so far, and I'm going to get down to the 15 for this one, right? Look, we can break this high here and flip this as support. There's a move back up to back test this, back up to 103. There's a gap here you see on the right side that I'm watching. This is probably what I'm watching for tonight into tomorrow. About a 2% move back up. Wouldn't be crazy for them to, even if we're going to continue down, it wouldn't be crazy for them to come back up here, take back some of this liquidity before running it back down. And I'm going to show you some confluence on the heat maps in a minute and why I think we're going to get up there. Whether we do it now or whether we go down, tap into 98 and then move up, or we go up now to come back down possibly. That's kind of what I'm seeing there. But I think this could be a good area to watch. If I go back a little bit on BTC, right? So essentially what we're doing is just playing it level to level. We start to gain acceptance back below 1015. You have to imagine 98's the next target. We start to gain acceptance back above 1015, and then you have to imagine that this 104 area, maybe 1035 to 1045 is probably the next target. You just play it level to level. That's what I'm doing at the moment. So this is the next thing I'm looking for. I'm gonna go see what VWAP's doing, get rid of some of these indicators. So look, we're above VWAP. From my experience, Asia likes to do one of two things. They will either just range it sideways or they will start to move VWAP in the direction they want to send the trend. So they usually are the trend setters. Sometimes occasionally they just do sideways boring chop that means nothing. But they usually are the trend setters. They don't really go and grab liquidity. That's not really their thing. That's more of a New York session thing or London session. They like to go for liquidity. Asia likes to set it. So the first step to seeing how Asia's setting the trend is where are we at on VWAP. We're above VWAP at the moment. When Asia opened, they pushed price up above VWAP, but we haven't solidified it yet. So they're either going to do one of two things. They're going to break it back down into VWAP and then see which direction we're going to go. If it's going to go up, they'll probably get their bounce off of VWAP and they'll start walking the VWAP up with price action, maybe create some type of trend we can start to identify and move with. Or they'll this is a fake out to grab liquidity or their version of it. They'll break back down, they'll retest VWAP, and then they'll run it down. So kind of what they'll do. Occasionally they'll get chopped up in between VWAP. I don't think this is one of those days. I think for me it looks like they're going to probably go up. Now what they could do is they could gain acceptance back up here. This could be another thing to watch out for. We gain acceptance back up here and they'll chop around a little bit and let VWAP catch up and then test VWAP and then run. So essentially I'm looking for a back test flip of this level here into support, or I'm looking for a back test of VWAP to potentially look for a long. I'm less reluctant to want to take a long on VWAP here because this is not much of a runway back into the highs. It could give us a couple percent move. I think this is probably the better play for me is get some acceptance back up here, pull back, maybe VWAP gets caught up, and then we can start to like build some support here and then try to take a long off that. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't think it's going to happen in one candle. I don't think we're just going to blast through here. I think they'll mess around a little bit, get some confirmation, because you could see we banged our heads on this a few times, right? So you really want to see confirmation. You don't want to be this candle or this candle and then runs down and you get trapped here. So the idea is let this puppy play out, let it figure out its direction. This is a decent double bottom here for now. This is a strong indicator that maybe we're going to come back up and take a little bit more. Doesn't necessarily mean we can't come down and claim this 98 still. I just think for now, the short term, we start to break this. That's a 15-minute market structure shift for me. And then it starts to tell us, okay, now I'm looking to long the back test because then we can get short term scalps, maybe, scalps, maybe short term trades. Aster made it to $1. Great. I was in that long earlier today. He said decision on tariff not tomorrow, only open Arbor. Yeah. They may not be until early next year. I don't know why people are talking about it being tomorrow. I honestly don't know 100%. It's been popping up in my feed that there are like people are worried about that. Oh, I'm not talking about decisions on tariffs. So let me see. You're talking about the decision on the court case. So only opening oral arguments. Yeah, I guess you're right. They're probably not going to have a decision. Maybe it's just something else. Maybe that's what just people are blaming it on. Anyway, I'll get off track here. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on BTC. I mean, look, there's always the play that look this gets swept here. I don't know if I'd be looking for an SFP here during Asia, but there's a potential short if you're looking for an SFP, just a swing failure pattern, grab some of the liquidity here, then run it back down the VWAP. It's not really an Asia thing though. They don't do that very often. I'd rather catch the trend and figure out which direction they're trading in. But let's talk about the liquidity. Um, so look, I'm gonna refresh this real quick. Get some fresh heat map. All right, so look, liquidity is really above us right now. We do have some below us at that 98K. just right around that 98K, which is why I think there's a chance that, at some point we get down there. This may build up though. If they decide to run this up a little bit more, they may build this up a little bit. I'm starting to see heavy yellow around this 105 region, which is kind of that second target I talked about, and this 102, which is that the highs up here. So look, if we break through here and they want to run it down, they may have enough. Maybe there's enough fuel here for them to run it back down to 98. Maybe they need to go up to 105 first before they do that. So those are the liquidity lines up with the areas we're watching for reactions. So kind of want to bring that up real quick on BTC before I move on to anything else. I'm going to talk about a few coins here. Ethereum looking a little bit better than it did earlier today. It looked pretty grim. Just kind of give you a rundown of what Ethereum did. So look, here's what the ETH has been doing. And it's been good for ETH for a little bit. It wasn't terrible, but we're holding this trend for quite a bit of time. And today, man, this week, they just decided, said, nope, we're going to lose this, and ran right down. We are bouncing off an anchored VWAP from the lows, from this April low. So that's our first, like, kind of a little bit of support here. I don't think, I hate to say it, but it just doesn't feel like that's enough. I think that this 3,000 to 2,800 is probably a bigger target. If we can hold here, great. I'm just not putting all my chips into this. I'm not. I think I'm more of a buyer on ETH back down here if it does get back down here. It's a 618. We have a lot of support here. We can see it by the volume. This is probably a POC of the entire area. I'm sure if I pull the fixed range volume profile, that'd probably be a POC there. I would imagine somewhere in this area. See? POC. So you can just tell by the way the volume is there. So we're broken back in. This is probably the next targets around this 2,800, 2,600. Maybe it gets dips down. I don't know. If we start to hold here and we make our way back up, that's great. I think this is going to be a bigger target for me. I'll play some short-term stuff in this area here. What I'm really looking at right now is, look, we're very close to getting a 1 hour and a 15-minute structure shift. And this is kind of why I want to like get into Ethereum. So I think Ethereum's a little bit closer to a trade than I think Bitcoin is at this moment. Got blood out a lot worse. So look, you have your low, you have your higher low, you have your high. If you break this high and you manage to get a back test into this area, I'd be expecting us to make our way back up into this 3,500, 3,400 area. So I'm looking for this low volume gap trade here. I'm looking for a break and I'm looking for that back test. Does it have to be perfect? No. But it needs to stay above this low here. It could come down a little bit, but that's what I need to see to want to go long here. And I'm looking for maybe just a quick move back up here. I'm not trying to ride this thing to the moon. I'm not trying to ride any of these coins. I'm trying to make some money on the way up. And then if it starts to roll over, let's say we do get up into this area here, which is the trend in this 35, 36 area, and we can't break back through, then I'm looking for shorts. Same thing, same scenario. But right now the trend is down, so you have to be a little bit more cautious on the long side. So, if you're taking longs, treat them as like short-term plays. Probably want to be in front of the computer or have a stop loss tighten validation, and be ready to, almost expect to lose the trade because you are fighting the trend when you do this. Trend hasn't really flipped yet on the higher time frames. It's still down. So even a lower time frame market structure shift doesn't necessarily mean like it could just be a bear flag forming over time and it's getting ready to rip down again. So just be mindful of that if you're looking for catch scalp longs or you hear me talking about these levels. That's kind of my thinking on that. But look, if ETH drops below, look, I said it's 2,800 is probably our first stop, but I think 28 down to 26 is very reasonable for a pullback on Ethereum. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but it is what it is at this point. And if it starts to break back below this level, it's probably over for ETH for a while. Because this is like the last area before you really start to lose like weekly structure. You start to lose weekly structure on this thing. You have to imagine this thing is just probably coming for this low again. And you saw the last time ETH broke back below 2,800, like that level, man, it got bloody. Like no, that's when they were talking about ETH being dead and never being, just being garbage. There's ETH forever top, like all those memes came out, like that was all around that time. So the sentiment was pretty in the dirt by then. It's kind of how it is now, if I'm being honest. Sentiment's pretty trash. But that's my ETH trade or ETH what I'm looking at. All right, let's go take a look at. I really don't care about Solana. Is that weird? Like, I haven't really been tracking this thing. I mean, look, Sol's coming for this wick. I think this wick gets filled now. We're just too close to it not to get it. If there's a world where altcoins are going to pull back, and I've heard this theory, and I don't know if I'm subscribed to it just yet, but there's a world where quantitative easing happens, and quantitative tightening stops, and the money printers flip on. We could have like a market surge. Risk on assets could just run back up because they're like undervalued at this point. I'm not really subscribed to that just yet. I think it's more of a we need to wait and see. I think market conditions need to flip. I think the we need to see Bitcoin make another leg up first before any of these things are going to move. Before people put money back in, I think we need to see more clarity with a lot of things. I just think there's just too much uncertainty right now, and it's reflecting in the markets. So I think Sol's a very good chance that this 140 gets hit tapped. If we can hold above this 140, wouldn't be a bad area to maybe grab a long. In my opinion, I would be looking for longs in this area. I'm not going to just jump in blindly though. But I think if you lose this area, and I think you're probably coming back down to $100, and this thing would have been nothing to more than just a giant head and shoulders at the end of the day, which is pretty ugly. If this did play out, this would probably take it back down to zero. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. I mean, if you're a Solana holder, if you don't care, then whatever. I just know you can make a lot more money going up than you can make going down because eventually they go to zero. But there's it can go up as exponentially more, like multiples, where you can only go down 100% to the downside, where you can get 5,000% to the upside over time. Not saying that's going to happen, but just kind of making my point. Anyway, this one I'm not really too interested in right now. I think I'm going to assess it when it gets down to this 141 area. If it doesn't get down there, what I'd be looking for is I'd be looking for price to make its way back up here. Got a little bit of a trend line here. It's not like great. I don't like when things look oblong like this. So I don't know if I would necessarily play this. It doesn't really like show me a lot of conviction in this trend. You could even argue you could have been playing this as the trend and then it breached and it just doesn't look clean. So the idea is here's I need to see more to want to get bullish on this thing. What I think is more likely to happen is if we don't take this wick here right now, it's going to come up, it's going to put a lower high in, and then it's going to come down here and grab it. And then what happens after that, whatever happens, we don't know. I think that's more likely if we don't grab this now. We'll come back up here, put a lower high, and then come down and grab that wick. We're just too close not to take it. Again, this is just my opinion. So, yeah. I was actually in an Aster trade earlier today. Showing a lot of strength, man. I don't know what's up with this thing, but it was showing a lot. It's CZ. It's fucking CZ in the cartel. It was showing a lot of strength, right? It was doing this thing. I'm going to show you exactly what it was doing today. It just stayed above VWAP all day. Like, we started down here. We pumped up, right? New York bloodbath happened, and it barely broke VWAP. It just kept coming down, kept coming down, kept coming down, and kept getting back above VWAP. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this thing looks pretty strong. I zoom in a little bit. I'm like, okay, it's making like a reversal pattern. This is a classic head and shoulders. This is pretty obvious in my opinion. You just they're pretty simple patterns to play. They have a higher probability of breaking to the upside than the downside. Your shoulder, your head, your right shoulder right there. And it's starting to break the neckline. You could even argue that this was a bull flag earlier, right? A little bull flag, measured move, and it's starting to break out. So, I mean, I caught that long earlier when it deviated below VWAP. I got back in above VWAP, rode it up, took some profits. I actually rode half of it back down and then rode the rest up and took the rest around 99. So I got a good like 26% trade on this earlier. It wasn't fantastic, but I think I could have got more out of it, but Just want to get in and out. Like I said, you're playing the counter trend right now. So if you're doing taking longs, so you're taking a bigger risk. So you want to try to be in and out of the market faster. But look, this thing looks strong. I think if this thing gets acceptance back above this dollar level, it's like this dollar to dollar two level, right? So this right here, just this area, if it gets back above this, I think there's a good chance this thing runs back up into the 110, 120 area. The measured move would take us up kind of in that area too, the head and shoulders. If you take like the full measured move of the head and shoulders, kind of takes you up into that 108 area. So what's to say we don't just continue up from there if it does have some bullish momentum, especially with everything being so bearish right now. They usually find one coin to just degen into, and like it just seems like traders will all pile in. And like if you're watching this right here, got a little bit of a trend kind of going, right? So maybe just watch this trend, watch this resistance on Aster. If you're into this coin, it just seems to be one of the stronger coins. Is why I'm focused on it right now. I like to see what holds under stress, and then those are the ones I target when the market starts to, cool off a little bit. And in this case, cool off from the sell-off. So maybe I'm looking for a pullback here if it does decide to stay bullish, and then if it breaks out, you're looking for something like that, something back into this area maybe first. Maybe we don't make it through on the first attempt. We chop around a little bit, and then if it does want to continue up, it'll just continue the trend and just make its way up. Could be pullbacks along the way, of course, but kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this flip of this dollar to dollar two area to maybe run it up to the 108, 110, or I'm looking for a small pullback to give me an opportunity for an entry with some type of divergence or something like that on the lower time frame. Where it sits right now, I wouldn't take it. It's a no trade zone. If anything, it's more of a short than it is a long at this point because you're at resistance. But I just thought it was an interesting one to talk about. And I see coins like that hold strength through all like a lot of adversity, like today's market makes me think like I should be paying attention to that coin. So it looks like so far Asia's buying this up. And we'll see what they're gonna do. Maybe we're gonna get that VWAP pullback on BTC right now. I'm gonna get rid of the volume. Go to VWAP, yeah. So maybe we're gonna get that pullback back to VWAP and decide if the trend's gonna be up or not. Starting to look that way when I see it on the 5. Looks a little toppy right there. Probably some bearish divergence. Yep. A little bear div on the 5 going into resistance. So we'll watch view up here. Keep an eye on that. POC level. Yeah. You said from December 2024 to now. Damn. That runs back a while. I bet you there'll be a reaction there if we do get down to 96. Remember how long it took us to get back above 100? If we start losing 100 again, man, that's going to be like a big defeat in the market. It took so long to start closing above 100, and then once we were above it, we just stayed above it. We'll take a look at a few other things while this thing cooks for now. Not much happening on BTC, so we're just going to check back in every once in a while. If you guys see it like start to drop, let me know though. Just type it in the chat. So watching this riot, sitting above this level right here, and if it can hold, there might be a nice long here. This thing has an earnings coming up in March. That's pretty far away. Who knows? Maybe it runs into earnings. Like a lot of these things. Actually, we just had an earnings the other day. So we had an earning back in October. So last week. It's been pulling back since its earnings, which most things do. If they run into their earnings, they pull back. But I'm like really watching like this. Apparently, there's some news on this. This was an old, this is a crypto mining, like a Bitcoin mining company. They're apparently making some type of transition into energy. Not sure how yet, but there's been some articles out there on it. So I think this is going to be one to watch. It's kind of showing some signs of maybe somebody's buying in. Like, look, legs up, right? Flags out a little bit, legs back up. So now it's flagging out. Maybe get one more pump up. If it can hold this area, maybe it'll pump one more time. Usually these things move in threes, right? You get like a pump, pull back, and then one more pump. And then you get a bigger correction, like, Elliott wave, whatever you want to call it. So I'm watching this level right here, this 18, 7, 19. I think this would be a good level. If we can hold above this, I think there's a possibility it runs up. This is really the level it's got to break. It's this 23. If it breaks this 23, volume falls off, and every time you get above this level, like see when you back tested here. So when you broke out here originally, look what you did. I'll just show you with this line. You come back, you back test, and then you run. So like this right here. So not saying that's gonna happen. I mean, let me go look at the volume when this happened. I mean, the volume's higher right now than it was back then. So I mean, who knows? And it's been steady uptrending. You look at the weekly. You look at that volume. You can't deny this. The volume's there. So something's happening with this company. So I think this is one. Me and Ben were talking about this earlier. I think this is one that we got to keep on our radar. Could be a nice play here. I mean, now this is probably not gonna be like a crypto scalp, but buy and hold for a little bit of time. 150% back up to this high here. If it decides it wants to run the full length back up to like the last bear market or last bull market, which I don't. That's you don't always bank on that, but that's like a 300% move. So it's a lot for a stock. So we'll see. That's definitely one you should keep on your radar, though, if you're into those things. Let me see what else. I'll go back to Bitcoin. Trying to catch a trade tonight. You guys have anything you want to see? Just type it in the chat if you have anything you want me to look at. Kind of done looking through all my stuff. Glad you sold your spot BTC at 122. Yeah, if you sold at 122, that's pretty good. I mean, it could be could be the cycle high. We don't know yet. It's looking more and more probable at this point. Even if it does go back up there and test the highs again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to put a new high. Yeah, let me know in the chat if there's anything you guys want to see. I think right now I'm really trying to catch this Bitcoin trade. I think there is going to be a trade here at some point tonight. We're already getting that 15-minute market structure shift on Ethereum. Let me go check out the metals real quick. Getting a little bit of a bounce here on gold. Gold's getting ready to have a 15-minute market structure shift right here. So if this high breaks, that's your low, higher low, break that, that's your 15-minute market structure shift. The next high I would probably want to go for is up here around that 4,000 level or 3,974. So that could be a nice move. It's only $25 on gold, but if you trade gold and you know anything about it, I mean, 0.5% you can make decent money on gold. It's just the way it's leveraged out on most exchanges. It usually comes preset with higher leverage, or you use higher leverage for these things. Not saying go use leverage, but it's just how people trade it. So maybe it gets that back test back up here. But I think that could be an interesting one. There's definitely some plays out here. I mean, money flow doesn't look horrible. Yeah, could be something here. Doesn't look terrible on the hourly. 4 hours looks still needs a little bit more time, but it's starting to curve back up. Could be a bounce play coming here soon on gold. It looks a lot very similar to looks a lot like Bitcoin almost, the way Bitcoin's moving. It's a little bit lagging behind everything right now. Yeah, I mean, there's a technically, let me see what this was. This is Sydney. That was the start of so that's after market. This is after New York market, so this is after maybe they sweep this and they come back down to VWAP, which they already swept it. I just don't know if that's enough for them. Wasn't really that great of a sweep, but it really wasn't too much liquidity because this is right after the market closed. I don't know. Sitting on my hands right now until I see a little bit more. Do we have that? We still have that 5 minute bear div. So I guess the first sign, if I was looking for whether like sign of weakness, you got a little bit of a rising channel, maybe even ascending triangle, you can call it, whatever it is. All right. It starts to break back. You can even get rid of this. This doesn't even matter that much. But essentially, if you start to break back below this, you have to imagine it's going to come down, right? You see this all the time, and it'll probably make its way back down the VWAP. It's not too far away, so it's about $600 down below us. So we'll look for see if this maybe does pull back here. If it's not ready to go, then we can look for a higher low potential at VWAP, or maybe it's going to break through and just go back down. In which case, we're targeting the lows. We're looking to see what happens down here. You lose this down to 98. So far so good. Hasn't really lost this trend that it's on. So I'd like to see how that plays out for now. Open robotics play. Open. Okay. Cerebro. I've heard of that. So let me go take a look at these coins. This better not be bullshit coins. People have been talking about this robotics narrative. I just find it hard to get into altcoins right now if everything looks like shit. Although this chart looks good. I mean, look, high, lower, high, higher low, higher high, higher low. It's in an uptrend. Healthy pullbacks. Not much data on it because it's pretty new. Let's see what the volume looks like. Volume looks like shit on the daily, but yeah, I mean, volume's really not supporting this move, so that's the only thing that throws me off on it a little bit. Let's see if market cipher even looks a little bit better. Not really. So whatever exchange this is not the exchange that's leading the price action on this thing. Like it's getting its data from different books somewhere else because it just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I mean, look, if it's kind of looks a little bit like the rest of the market, right? A little bit of shoulder, head, right shoulder. You got your neckline. You're starting to break out of your neckline here. You know, that's the measured move. Probably like halfway back up, somewhere around there. So I mean, yeah, it's got potential. It's definitely got potential. And you start to lose this, you got this little trend line right here. Well, not even a trend line, you just have this equity curve. They could just come back and grab all of this, snap this back. But the way I would play this, if you break back in this, you treat this like a range, even if this is probably even simpler to do it this way. Instead of trying to play the whole head and shoulders neckline thing. Look, if it breaks back in here, you got a range. Acceptance back into the range, you expect to come back down to the POC if they can see if I can pull a fixed range volume profile. So yeah, these things aren't always the greatest, but you can see generally where price will react. So like, if we start to break back in here and you gain acceptance back in here, you have to imagine you're coming back down to POC, which is like that midway, and you lose POC, you're coming back down to the lows of the range. It's pretty simple with those things. Damn, I should have stayed on the long. It wasn't a long today from down here. I'll show you the long I got into. It's pretty degen. It was this right here. So when it did the double tap down there, I think I caught a long off of a trend break. It was like this right here. It wasn't like the greatest trend break, but it was something. So it had broken structure like right as it broke through on the 1 minute. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna take this trade because it had the little back test. I think I got in a little bit before that, but there's also the break right here, but that wasn't the greatest. You really just had to play this as like a double bottom, like just be confident that this was going to play out as a double bottom. And when you start to see like lower time frame market structure shift like that, you had to kind of almost just like take a leap of faith right here. Worst case scenario, you have a stop set under here, you get stopped out, you take the L. There wasn't too much there though. I had a little bit. Nah, money flow didn't look good at all. Yeah, probably wasn't the highest probability play. I'll admit that much. Played out though. I made money on it. I had a tight stop. I was looking for the sweep, but I was actually looking for it to come down to 98, but it just stopped and halted short. So I was like, all right, they're not going for it yet. What was that other coin we're supposed to look at? This coin's a rebro. I feel like I've looked at that coin before. This is a rebro. Oof. That's a Bart Simpson. It's like a picture perfect Bart Simpson. All right. Okay. Jesus. Is this seriously, dude? How the hell am I supposed to TA this? Oh man. Could you imagine being the guy who bought up here? I'm guessing this is what happened. This thing launched onto Binance. I'm gonna go see if I can find it on a different exchange. Let me go check it on MEXC. So yeah, so it launched on MEXC down here, and then when it launched on Binance, somebody knew and it pumped going into Binance. And as soon as it got launched on Binance, I guarantee it was Binance too. They sold on people and they just dumped the price down completely. That's what happens with a lot of these coins, man. They get their release, people get in early and then they sell into like the big exchange listing, which is usually Binance or Coinbase. Look, I don't really know how to TA this thing. I guess the only thing I'd be looking at is if you just take away this whole major thing here, you're really just you're in a downtrend, like right, you're trending down. You did have a little bit of an upside here. You broke daily structure right there. So this is your daily structure break. It's not even great because it's like, right? They came back, they retested it, and now we're at a high. So like, it's like the next step is like you break this high, you have to imagine it's going to go probably for this high up here. This high is kind of just equal with this right here. Just kind of go across all these wicks, right? It's just front running this area. So if you break this area, and that's the next step up for Cerebro. I don't really know how else to TA this though, if I'm being honest. I think if I was gonna take a guess on this, it's probably gonna get rejected up here. Let me see what the volume looks like. Stop talking shit. Yeah, volume doesn't really look great. I'm on Binance, right? No, I'm on MEXC. Let me go back to Binance. Make sure I'm on Binance and I'm doing volume. No, this is Binance. Okay. Yeah, volume doesn't look great. Doesn't look too great on this thing. I don't really know what Cerebro is. I remember hearing about it, but I mean, the daily doesn't. Daily's probably the best looking time frame on this thing. Everything else looks like trash. Like, how do you trade this? I guess best case scenario, like I said, it breaks this high and it runs up. Like, I don't really see much else on it, to be honest. Damn, how big of a drop was that? See that number? 98%. Coins shouldn't do that. No asset should do that. Just throwing that out there. Not healthy ones, at least. It's like a meme coin drop right there. Yeah, no, it looks good over the last couple weeks. It's just like, how do you trade that? Like, it's tough, man. That's like, you never know. Like, are you gonna be exit someone's exit liquidity, or are you gonna like, you know, are you gonna get in before the pump? Dude, all meme coins are dead right now. What are you talking about? How do you even how can you even look at a meme coin if like after what happened today? Markets are just they're trust me, they're not going into the meme coins right now. We can look at Farcoin now. It probably looks like shit like it always does. No pun intended. Um, yeah, last time I was TA in this, I was like hopium. Farcoin's in a falling wedge and it's gonna bounce on this giant. It's just in a giant channel, guys. I don't think that's really gonna happen here. I think this was the high. Called this, shorted this, longed into this, and then after that, everything else was just a dead cat bounce. I think that's really what the higher time frames are saying. There's always the chance that this does bounce. I mean, maybe the weekly curve's over, volume picks back up, and this decides it's going to have one more run up. I don't know. I don't see that doesn't seem likely to me. I think best case scenario, you get a little bit of a bounce at some point. Maybe it'll sweep this low. It'll get some type of relief rally, and then you'll get people that just offload, and this thing will go to dirt. But we'll see. We're at support, or what I think is support at least. Can't fade it until this level starts to get lost. So, you start to lose 20 cents. I mean, then comes the wick around 10 cents. So it's a 50% drop if you lose 20 cents. On the flip side, I don't really see a long. I don't see a long until you start to break market structure back up on at least the 4 hour, and we don't have that yet. Probably don't even have a 15 yet. And I think really I'd want to see this trend broken. If I'm gonna even put any money into this thing for a trade, I'd really want to see this trend broken, and I would want to see a 15-minute, not 15-minute, 4 hour market structure shift. I don't like the volume, so I think volume is something you have to watch on this too. Um, yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, look, I go down to the hourly, no shift. Dude, we don't even have a shift on the 15 yet. This thing is just chopping around. I mean, I guess, no, I'd say this right here. This is probably your little mini range on Farcoin, which will decide its next move. You get back above this, you start holding, you open up possibilities to maybe run back up into this area here, attack that level, see how the volume sticks out and the volume's all low down here. So there could be a quick move up if it can hold above this. You're still going to have some hiccups. You got all this area right here. See the volume kind of like fades out, but it's still stronger. It's going to not be an easy rip right through this. And there'll probably be resistance right around there. So I would say locally, you got this range. If it breaks out of the range to the upside, you can start to target maybe a move back up to 28, possibly up to 30 if it can get back above 28. You start to lose this low, I think you are looking at what I said earlier was what 20 cents was the next level down. And then if you lose 20 cents, it's 10 cents. So big gaps to the downside on this thing for sure. I don't want to click back to that. Let's force a habit. And we'll look at Tesla. Yeah, we can look at Tesla. Let's see what Tesla looks like. Okay. Let me just see something real quick. I want to see if I can get post market. extended hours. Just get rid of everything, go fresh. So Tesla had bad earnings, we know that. Tesla pumped into its earnings, had actually dumped into its earnings, had a pump afterwards. It's not that clean of a chart. Let me go back to let me go back to the regular one. I think the regular one looks like a little different. Oh, that was weird. I got rid of the extended hours. That's strange. Whatever. So let's see. Tesla. All right. Well, let's go to the weekly. Do it from here. That's not an easy one to see. So you got this level here. So that's the high. You got this level right down here. Sure that lines up with some the VRVP. It does. And you got this little mini range we're in. Maybe you have a trend. Probably not though. Yeah, it's like a way further down. I don't think that trend's really going to matter too much. So got that. So yeah, I guess there's a big levels we need to watch. If we go down to the daily, what are we seeing here? Look, we got a little bit of a gap here that hasn't been filled. Probably going to come back for that. That's back from September though. At some point they'll get this, right? Getting a little bit of a double top right here locally. So I mean, they came up, they didn't take the high just yet, but they're starting to do like a little bit of a bear flag. So you gotta watch this right here. I think is really what we need to start watching on this. Kind of see how this plays out. If they don't take the high, I have to imagine this is probably gonna come back down. It's just channeling upwards. So maybe it comes back down, test this again, but yeah, it hasn't broken this high here at 480. Just kind of chopping up. Probably say there's no trade on this right now. I would be looking for a short up here. So if you do get that spike in the 488 on the first pass, I'd imagine there's going to be a pretty easy short. Usually the first pass to all-time highs, that was about a year ago. Usually there's a pullback. You get that initial spike, just kind of like we saw with silver earlier. You get that initial pullback, and then it'll gather itself and decide if it's going to continue to go up. Let me get rid of this real quick. Nice little equity curve right here. Look at that. Probably a trend here too. There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, that's starting to piece together a little bit more. So look, we lose this little range that we're in here. This low. This essentially, I'm going to move this up a little bit. Just like, let's play this right here. I bet you that's probably a fib too if I pull a fib. Yeah, it's like a 382, depending on where you pull from. Kind of like lines up with this area. So I think you're probably your next step. Look, if you lose this, you open up the low volume gap on Tesla, and it takes you back down to about 360, 365. But it also lines up with this larger trend, right? That goes back from April, and it lines up. Sure, if it dipped down a little bit lower, you got this support around 358. So there is some reason to believe that if we did get back down here, that this could be a good bounce area, just based off of like what the charts are showing. You got an anchored VWAP from the low, kind of making its way back up into this level. If price continues to chop around, I mean, this anchor VWAP is going to continue to move up as price action stays up here. So I think this is a hot spot to really watch. You just got to watch this area down here, just this general area. You never know. It could bounce off trend. It could run all the way down to 240, maybe 250. 250. I'm sorry, 340, 350. If it wants to run pretty deep and take the full gap, maybe it doesn't run the full gap. So I think that's something to watch. The whole single print is like likely they could take this whole thing back though. So this is down to 360 here. But if they want to sweep a little deeper, they could. But let me put this box right here. Actually, this is probably better, a better area to target. So, yeah, start losing these lows. You have to imagine they're going to maybe make their way back down to this trend and then into this little box, this area here. Then I'll be looking for like some type of bounce in this area. That's Tesla. It's the upside. I mean, look, dude, it breaks. That's a tough one. I guess you go with the whole numbers. Look, it front ran 500, right? So where would the next whole number be? Probably 600. Maybe look at front. If hit 400, it ran back. Hits right around 500, it pulls back. Sure, it did the same thing around 200. I did it around 300 though. Didn't do it at two so much, but 300 it did pull back. 400, 500. So whole numbers seem to matter to this thing, or at least it's investors, people that are buying and selling it. So I think those are the levels I'll be watching on Tesla. Not a whole bunch you can do here, but if it does start to lose this trend, I mean, it opens up the gates for this. Look, right? If you lose this trend, that turns into a little bit of a flag, maybe. Oh, look at that. Let's take this out there real quick, right? Measure and move takes you back down into this area we talked about. So probably a good possibility. This is the double top. I mean, maybe they go up one more time and try to grab this liquidity if they do want to go for it. Maybe they're going to pull back. I think it's more bullish, and it's just this is like weird to think this way, but it's probably more bullish for the token if it doesn't sweep the high and then pulls back, front running the high. Because what that does is that still leaves that liquidity up there that they're probably going to go for. So they're just gathering strength to probably try to break through or to take that high. So that's the way I see it, at least there. So, I mean, it could be, if it starts to roll over here, could be a nice little move back down to this area. What is RTH? You can change to ETH or RTH when below the daily time frame on stocks. Oh, real time. Gotcha. Sorry about that. I was like, what? Your girlfriend's requesting a look at Airbnb. Sure, Rob, your girlfriend. Girlfriend. I'm just messing with you, dude. Airbnb. Oof. It's an ugly chart. It's been a rough ride for Airbnb, hasn't it? Uh, I mean, the weekly doesn't look great. Yeah, man, this doesn't look great. When's earnings? Earnings are in 2 days on Thursday. So you got earnings. Here's the plus side. You're bleeding out into earnings. So it's usually a good sign, right? If you're kind of bleeding out into earnings, could be a chance for a pump. I'll show you a couple other coins that like look. Apple started pumping into its earnings, right? Right around there, pumped. It got a little bit of a pullback. It wasn't a huge pullback. Microsoft, here's a bigger, better example. Microsoft pumped into its earnings. As soon as its earnings hit, it dumped. Meta pumped into its earnings, dumped. Amazon, actually, believe it or not, Amazon pulled back right before its earnings, right? Like a day or 2 days before. back tested this little trend, which I gave this play on this live actually. It's like right around here. So back tested and then it ran up. So you got to pay attention to these earnings and kind of see how they play, what price action's doing, but also you have to know the whatever you're trading. I mean, like those are Mag 7 coins. I don't think Airbnb is considered a Mag 7 at this point, but who knows, right? Maybe one day. Um, so they got a little bit of like a wedge kind of going on here, I think, right? It's not like nothing crazy, but it's just interesting that like when I see wedges forming into a big date like an earnings in the 2 days, it just tells me at some point this thing's either going to break up or down, right? So it's got a decision to make. It's going to make it pretty soon. This range that it's been in has been just beginning. Look, it started off wide and it's starting to thin out, right? We're starting to thin out and we're going to pick a direction. We're either headed back to the range low or we're going to break out and maybe attack some of these highs, maybe back up to the range high. So probably going to have to watch that going into earnings. This is not a trade area. I would say if you're looking for, wait for the break in one direction, wait for some closures, you know, to attack that low, or you get a pump back up and you start attacking some of these highs. So something like that I could see possibly. It's going to go for liquidity on either side, but it's not going to be clean because it's just the way the price is chopping around in here. It could just chop its way up, chop its way down. So this is a tougher one to trade. I'd say if I was looking on the lower time frames, you don't have a 4 hour structure shift yet. Barely, actually, barely, but maybe right here. So really don't want to lose this low. If you start losing this low, then it starts to get a little shaky. So ideally you want to hold that. You're sitting right on a 618 right now, so kind of want to hold this 120, 122 area. And you start like really closing below that, I think it gets a little bit shaky. You're going to come take this low. This trend on the bottom's not really like defined either, by the way. It's just something I'm just throwing there for like visual sake. But yeah, it's a tough one. Let me see how volume looks real quick. See if I can find something a little bit more on this. And volume's not really telling either. It's just chopping sideways like the price action. And if I look at my indicators, my daily doesn't look great. My daily's pointed down. Not a good sign. That's not good on the weekly. You don't want to see the VWAP curving over like this on a weekly. It's usually not a good sign either. Yeah, so I think higher time frames are like pointed downwards right now. Lower time frames are a little more indecisive. Like the daily could be getting ready to print a green dot. This thing could start to shift back up. Hourly, doesn't look terrible, but we are starting to see the RSI's bottom out a little bit. So yeah, there's a possibility that maybe it gets a little bounce either here or it's going to get a bounce down here at this 120. So we'll see. But you got earnings in a few days, so sorry for yawning. A little tired. There's a nice gap though above it. If you look at this gap, all right, if you're looking at it on the lower time frames, back up to like 126, be a nice little play there. I don't really trade this thing, but I think if it fails to get back above this here, this little trend starts to gap up. Maybe it gets rejected off this trend. You have to expect that maybe it's just going to do this, make its way down. It's always a possibility. So yeah, I wish I had more on this one. I don't really like this chart. It's not something I would trade. If you hold it, I mean, you've just been in Chop City for a while, so hey, if you're like a long-term holder, starts to break back below this, I probably want to get out. I'd probably take my profits and then Expect this thing's going to drop down probably about 5-10%, maybe easy 5-10%, probably like 10-15% more so. You lose this low, right? The next low is down 20% down here. So might be a time to just get rid of it, de-risk a little bit, and then consolidate when it gets a little bit lower. And this start look like a head and shoulders too. You start to see this right here starting to be a little bit more apparent. Kind of like this shoulder, head, lower right shoulder, right? Seen a lot of these in the market, so you start to see them. You have to pay attention. It's kind of like your neckline. You did breach it a little bit and came back up. So I don't think this thing does breaks down like that, but that would probably be like the company going under completely if that happened. Yeah. Let's see. I'll go check Bitcoin in a minute. Yeah, I kind of figured that out after you said that. I was like, wait, ETH? Real trading hours, extended trading hours. Damn, Amazon. Yeah, dude, Amazon went nuts. It's like you gotta expect it's gonna do good going into Q4. I mean, this is its time to shine. Oh, look at BTC. Looks like we're getting acceptance above. I said that earlier when I was in this trade. I was like, I think I posted this trade. I'm like, I think it's gonna go up to 102, and then I'm looking for some type of rejection possibly up there. But sorry about that, guys. Opening windows I'm not supposed to be opening. Anyways, guys, I think I am going to call it for now. I think I'm gonna go do some stuff other than TA. I'm a little burnt out from today. We had a good trading session though during New York. So again, anybody who's new to the stream or anybody who's tuning in, check us out at Tactical Edge Trading. We have a Discord. We teach trading. We do live trading Monday through Friday. New York ASA session. Our ASA sessions have been a little bit more of these live TAs where I give like my setups, my market overlook, and you kind of just do what you want to do with that. But New York, we kind of like I could say it's as close to hand holding as you could possibly get. We give our levels. We don't tell you when we're entering, but we tell you the game plan before it happens. And we all capitalized on it this morning. Brian gave out a great call. And if it's not Brian, it's somebody else. There's like 20, 30 other traders in most live sessions, and everyone looks at the same levels. Everyone sees the same levels. We all different level of trading, but for the most part, everybody contributes. So yeah, check us out. Links in the description. We also have link up above, and yeah, check out the Discord. It's free to join, and if you want to check out our premium section, a little bit more that we offer there. There is a free 30 days. So just join the free Discord, and then what you do is you send a support ticket over to either Ben or Donkey, and just let them know you're there for the free 30 days, and they'll set you up. But I appreciate you guys all coming out. Smash the like, hit subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll catch you guys later. All right.